So I mean, Microsoft seems like it's, really headed in this direction of, it's a services company. There are a lot of different things, and Xbox with the, kind of getting the brand onto the PC in a lot of different ways seems to tie into that a little bit. How married are you to owning those services? I mean, Steam is incredibly popular. Would you ever foresee, you look at the way Ubi does it with having kind of a Uplay launcher that launches out of Steam, which is clunky, but you understand, like they want to have some control over the experience and capture some data along the way. And
they run that on Xbox too, right?
Right. Yeah. And EA obviously captures a lot of that stuff as well, and they're running their own platform. But I kind of every time I talk to EA, kind of ask those questions about like, so how's Origin going? How are you still married to it? What do you think about Steam? Because the thing we just hear from the audience over and over again is like, well, if it's not on Steam, it seems like Blizzard's the one company that gets a pass on that.
That's right. Well, Riot does a little bit too.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Riot gets a little pass.
Yeah, MOBAs scare me, so try to keep Riot out of mine a little bit.
I saw Brendan; he was in there today.
How do you think you would ever look into putting games on Steam, or is it more about like, hey, let's put Steam in a deeper level into the Windows 10 store or something like that? Like, would you ever think about like figuring out a way?
We sell games in Steam today.
Right, I guess like what Age of Empires.
Ori we launched in Steam.
Okay, right. Yeah, you're right.
So
but with this kind of coming, big first party AAA, the stuff that's going to be coming out, do you think that still makes sense?
It definitely could. Yeah, I don't. I look at Steam today. It's on an incredible growth trajectory. It's a massive force in gaming, positive force.
Sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it'll be bigger a year from now than it is today, and 5 years later it'll still be bigger again, right? So, as the platform holder, Windows, and my role, while we say it's head of Xbox, actually inside of Microsoft, they think of me as the head of gaming, which and so I look at Valve as an important ISV for us on Windows. They are such a critical part of gaming success on Windows. I don't think Valve's hurt by not having our first-party games in their store right now, right? I think they're doing incredibly well.
Right.
And I think we're going to learn by doing of putting our games in our store. I want to build a store. There's no doubt about that. And Gabe and Scott and Eric and I, and we have talked about this, and I think Gabe says it very well. There's going to be areas where we cooperate, and there's going to be areas that we compete, and the end result is better for gamers. So I definitely want to have inside of Windows a healthy store, and in order to exercise the issues that we've talked about in terms of some of our early launches, I think I have to put my first party stuff there. Like it's what first party, we adopted Xbox Live before anybody else on console.
Right.
We're there at launch of consoles doing things that third parties won't go do. So I think we need that. Probably, but I get the same sentiment from that you hear of, hey, if you don't put it in Steam, it's not really a Windows game.
Yeah.
And I don't, like, Steam has earned that. Valve has earned that with the way they've treated customers, and they've been there, and I understand the Games for Windows Live 2.0 meme and how, hey, maybe we'll forget how to spell Windows again and we'll just try to trick everybody into buying an Xbox. Like, I get that perception of people. I will tell you, as long as I'm in this job, I think about Windows and our work on Xbox as core to what we're trying to do. And I want to learn from putting our games in our store and the process of doing that, because I want to have a healthy store ecosystem. But we will ship games in Steam again. And I think the partnership between us, I had the leadership of Valve over before the show, showed them Scorpio and said, hey, here's what we're doing. I mean, they're a great partner. I know those guys incredibly well. And I think they're doing fine without Quantum Break in their store right now. And I don't know what the future holds completely, but I have no aversion to saying there's definitely no religion to say we'd never ship anything in Steam again.
Cool.
But I do think we have to do some work on our own and learn from that.
So with Scorpio, gosh, how many years will it have been since the launch of the Xbox One when Scorpio finally hits? Is it four at that point?
Yeah, 4.
I
So
believe
2013?
17, 4, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're better at math.
I mean, obviously it's kind of hard to see that far out at this point, but do you think that this is how consoles go from here? Kind of stick to this architecture? It seems like everyone likes the architecture that they're on right now. Maybe it'll get replaced by something down the line, but do you see this as kind of 4 years down the line, maybe?
Yeah. I like the timing that you talk about, because I definitely get some people asking me, the press coming in, and have we turned it into a cell phone, and every year, every 2 years, you're going to try to sell me a new console? And I'll definitely say that is not our plan. Our plan is to find the natural inflection points in game technology that seem to resonate with people. You mentioned 4K. You see it on PC as well, right? That seems to be a common spec that people will pick. But there are games that even go beyond that now on the PC. Television seem to lock on 4K. So we looked at that as a good point for us to design around with our 6 teraflops Scorpio. The next iteration, I don't know what that will be. We talk to creators all the time. Patrick Sutherland was also in our Scorpio video, like, hey, what are you guys thinking? Is it 8K? Is it 120 hertz? 144? Like, what is the next thing?
Yeah.
But we had no timeline for that. For us right now, the focus is on 4K and what we can do with Scorpio. In terms of the compatibility, as a member of the Xbox leadership team at the launch of the original Xbox, I've said this before, I really struggled with the lack of compatibility of 360 games, just at kind of a soulful level. I said, if we're going to really go push this digital future with Xbox One, I don't understand how a customer is going to effectively trust us if we say, yeah, Xbox Live Arcade, Summer of Arcade, all that stuff, all the digital games you bought on 360, sorry, but here, start again. Like that, it didn't. So one of the first decisions we made was obviously on 360 back compat, and could we get the Code Ninjas to make it work? And I'm really happy. We have actually some good, I think, announces tomorrow that are coming out on back compat.
Great,
which will be
great.
Cool. I think it's tomorrow. But in terms of forward compatibility, that's the spirit of it. Now, I can't always predict future CPU, GPU architecture and how challenging that will be. We're going 360 is a Power PC chip. We're going to x86 on Xbox One. We made that work. There was really nothing that said that could work, but it did.
Yeah.
As long as we're staying in the same architecture, the compatibility is something that's core to me. And maybe it's my Win32 envy, right? The fact that
you can go all the way back to
you can, right? And maybe sometimes because of DirectX or something else, something's a little bit quirky, but
you can make it work.
You
got DOSBox for that.
That's right. There you go. Give me the command line. I'm good. But that's
command line on Xbox One. Is that
but that's. I think the sentiment in the Win32 world is when I buy a game, effectively it moves with me as I upgrade video cards and laptops or desktops and whatever I do.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, I'll be explicit with people if we get to a point where something happens where that compatibility, we struggle, whether then you have to go to like a cloud solution or do you go to some kind of VM thing that runs. I don't know. But that right now, that's what we talk about as an Xbox One line.
Right.
Because in that line, I want to make sure that line that your games are with you, your live experience is with you, your save games are all there, your controller works, you move it back and forth across all of the Xbox Ones. That's kind of core to what we're trying to do.
So between Scorpio and Neo, obviously, like it is the way forward for there to now be two platforms that are kind of cross-compatible but different specs on the market at the same time. Have you guys encountered any skittishness on the part of developers about having to like manage two builds, submit two builds, like, do a bunch of work on, like Jeff mentions, the closed box model of the console, like that's going away. Now they've got two targets they have to worry about. Like are you able to support them and kind of ease those fears and kind of?
I love that. You're asking absolutely the right question, and some of the. I think there's a logical question of, hey, Phil, why would you ever announce two consoles at one show? Like Xbox One S, I think is very nice, $299, beautiful console, and at the end you announce the next thing that's further out. Why didn't you wait? And clearly other people made a decision to wait. These discussions that we're having with partners now about the distribution of content, how you supporting multiple spec is something that the PC world's done for a long time.
Sure.
You got minimum spec, you got recommended spec, you kind of have unbounded spec. So you kind of pick, frankly, video card sweet spots where you look at the volume of the video cards that sold in CPUs and you say, oh, okay, this seems like one where there's millions of customers and there's clumped of millions of customers here. Now we're going to have two in the console. We'll obviously have Xbox One. That's why I talk about Xbox One S as an Xbox One, because they will design for that one kind of compute capability there, and then you'll have Scorpio. I think the real question is, hey, how do you deliver the 4K assets? If I buy this game and I'm running on an Xbox One, do I have to download all the 4K assets when I know I'm not going to run them here? And these are the discussions we have with the partners. And frankly, the reason we announced when we did One is I wanted to give customers a view into what we were doing, because I want to, like, if they say I have an Xbox One now, I'm thinking about an Xbox One S, I want to be as transparent as I can be, so that they know they're buying with as much information as I can give them. I can't always give them all the information, but I want to give them this information.
That's cool. It seems like, you know, there's too often in like the hardware business, you see like, oh, I bought this thing, and then 2 weeks later they announced, like, you hear in the PC world all the time,
Yeah,
and
or
phones
the
and
Apple.
everything
That
else.
happens with Apple constantly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's hard. That's
It
hard.
is, and people could say, they could call me and say, hey, you didn't tell us about the Xbox One S before it came out, but I'll say the Xbox One S from a game standpoint is effectively an Xbox One, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about Scorpio so customers could feel like they had a view into what we were doing, so they could make the decision was right for them. On your question, I also need to have that discussion with partners. And we started having the discussion with partners, frankly, months and months ago, and it leaked, right? We saw it leaked like 2 weeks ago, and then we're in this world of, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. What, Scorpio? Like, and I know when I'm going to go out and start talking to partners about these kind of, scenarios, and how do we want to tackle these scenarios, that things will get out. And I'd rather just do it openly and say, here's what we're building towards. It's a spec that's lined up with a good PC spec, so you can actually start targeting what Scorpio will be now with the builds of the games you're doing, because we're talking to partners that are shipping next year and already saying, hey, here's where it's going to be.
Keep this in mind.
Yeah,
So this
and
is your target.
that's
Yeah.
why then I don't have to like make sure that I shred every piece of paper I see that has the words on it. It doesn't mean we won't try to like keep things our own, but having the dialogue both so the customers see what's going on, they can see the content. We probably won't talk a lot between now and when the next time we have something to say big about Scorpio, but what we'll be doing is these exact kind of issues of, hey, how do you target these two specs? How do I deliver the content? You asked about entitlements, like, is it a disc? How does that work? Like we have plans for all of those things. We're going to talk to partners about it, and now we can do it fairly openly, which feels good.
Cool. All right. Well, Phil,